Trains. I was obsessed with them as a kid. So much so that my father converted our ping pong table into the grassy fields of my imagination. I would build elaborate villages where the trains could go, places which only existed in our basement. I'm sure all my parents saw at the time was the cost of the supplies, but it really did make me happy. During our final day in Corner Brook, we took the opportunity to visit the local train museum. Situated along the banks of the Humber River, the museum awarded us with a fantastic sense of the train's original route as it passed through the mountainous terrain. This museum had an admission fee of $3. Including a 20-minute guided tour of the train cars, we simply couldn't pass up the chance to learn more, and neither should you. So from inside this train car, I'd like to welcome you to the Newfoundland Railroad Museum. So in today's video, we're going to be learning about the railway system here in Corner Brook, Newfoundland. They used to run from Corner Brook, which is on the west side of the island, all the way to St. John's, which is on the east side of the island. The Newfoundland Railway began in 1881. At this point in history, Newfoundland was still under British control. Because of this aspect, all the railways were built to British specifications, including the tracks being laid in something called a narrow gauge, which is where the tracks are laid 3 feet 6 inches wide compared to the typical 4 feet 8.5 inches wide. When Confederation occurred in 1949 and Newfoundland became part of Canada, it was very apparent that they would have some issues sending items by train from other parts of Canada with the rail gauge differences. Trains which were brought to and from the island had to be retrofitted and fit for the narrower tracks. Eventually, transportation of food and goods were replaced by trucks, eliminating the need of trains in Newfoundland altogether. The freight train, which pulled these cars, was built in 1950 and was a gift for Confederation. Engineers would have stuck their heads out the side window in order to see the front of the train, as the sight lines were blocked from within the control room. Built in 1920, this passenger car was sent up from Philadelphia in the United States. At a top speed of 30 miles an hour, it took a good 27 hours to make the journey across the province. In this area, bags and goods you didn't want on hand could be stored. Large black boxes like these would hold extra valuable items. They were built heavy enough that they would struggle if somebody wanted to take them for themselves.
Or something?
Oh yeah, at least.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be stealing those very fast.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said that they did bolt them to the ground as well, so you'd have to really want what was in there in order to get it. Immediately behind this section, in the next car, were the cabins for women and children, beautifully restored. Much of the current leather seating was original to the train car. The food prep car was our next stop. We learned that trains were quite equipped for its time. Not only did it have a place to cook and serve full meals, but also an icebox to keep food from going bad on long journeys, something uncommon at the time. Interestingly, water was stored within the ceiling in a large metal container, a real space saver. Following the kitchen is the dining car. Although not many exist now, the plates and dining ware in this car are all original. Toward the back of the car was the sleeping area. Guests could rent these areas if they were making the entire 27-hour trip from coast to coast. The staff had dedicated cars within the train as well. They were able to escape the duties of the trip from time to time and relax, undisturbed. An original copper sink still exists in this space. At the exact opposite end was the caboose. Within this area, there were 2 elevated chairs called the firemen's seats. Those assigned to these seats would be able to see the entire length of the train, looking for fire and other potential safety concerns. In addition to the lookout role, the caboose also acted as a break room for the train operators, as well as an infirmary for any medical emergencies. Outside, we got to see the freight cars. They operated much like a dump truck would today. A pin would be pulled and the container would be tipped to empty the cargo. At front is a giant plow. So for size comparison, this beast would have no problem moving anything out of the way from snow to moose. If you're looking for additional information about this location, or planning a trip to Newfoundland, visit our website at joshtravelguy.ca.